Greetings, math fans. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the period. All right, so if we have a problem like y equals a sine of bx and y equals a cosine of bx. So this is kind of what we're concentrating. Yesterday we were talking about a, which is amplitude. Remember, it always has to be positive. It's very, very important. Okay. And but now we're going to talk about what that bx. All right, so let's just kind of start out with a friendly problem here. I think the best way to do it is just by an example. So y is equal to the sine of 2x. So what we're going to do is, just like we didn't really do it too much last lesson because it really wasn't that important. But remember how I set up an inequality and I always said x was between 0 and 2 pi. That was one period. Well, now we're going to take this value and that's going to go inside that compound inequality. So it's going to be 2x is between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, that's because that's a traditional period for sine of x. All right, and then basically what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. So you get 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to pi. All right, so this is pretty key here, math fans. We're going to get a couple things off of this. First of all, I can get the period. The period is going to be the right side minus the left side. So I can even write this right minus the left side, which is pi minus 0, which is pi. And you're like, well, why don't you just look at the pi? Well, again, we're going to be doing something later on. We're going to do something, a shift left and right, and it's not going to be the case. All right. So the period is right minus left. In this case, is pi. Our increment is going to be pi over 4. Remember, I told you that. It's always over 4. So that's pretty nice, too. All right, okay, let's graph this thing now, because that's kind of all we need. We're going to start out with at 0, and they're going to go pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, or pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and 4 pi over 4, or pi. Okay? And the amplitude here is 1. So we're going to go 1 and negative 1. And remember, sine always starts at the 0, or at the, in quotes, x axis. Okay, so we're starting right here. And it's positive, so we're going to go up. And then over here, down to there, and over to there. All right? And so our graph is going to look like this. Remember, I told you to be nice and neat. So curve, take your pen off the paper, and then curve like that. And there we go. That is a graph with a period of pi. It's kind of what basically it does, changing the period makes it kind of crunch together or expand. Now, of course, our 2 pi for this graph would have been way out here, right? This would have been like 2 pi. So really what you have is you have 2 complete periods within 2 pi. All right, and you're going to see the book sometimes actually graphs more than one period. I'm not looking for that. I'm really looking for just one period, but making sure you know how to graph it correctly. And a couple things, math fans. First of all, I need labels. If I don't see all that labeled and all of that labeled, I'm going to take a point off because I need to know exactly what points you're plotting. Okay, there's no guessing in here. Okay, you've got to plot exactly what you've calculated. All right. Okay, let's try another problem here. Y is equal to 2 cosine of 1/2 x. Okay, so amplitude is 2. So we can even write that down here because we're going to start asking you more and more of what different things are. So amplitude is 2. And let's set up our compound inequality. So 1/2 x, it's between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, now please don't do algebra, goofy things in algebra here. How do you solve for x? Don't divide by 1/2. It makes things really complicated. You want to multiply both sides by, or all sides by 2. It makes much more sense. So 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 4 pi. Okay, it's nice. The period is 4 pi minus 0, which is 4 pi. And the increment is 4 pi over 4, which is pi. It's pretty easy. Okay, let's graph it. Increment is pi, so pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and 4 pi. All right, and my amplitude is 2, so 1, 2, -1, -2. All right, so we got everything here. Cosine starts at a minimum or a maximum. Min or max. In this case here, it's positive coefficient in front of the cosine, so we're going to start at a maximum. And so we're going to start right there. And then we go to 0, to -2, back to 0, and to 2. Okay? Now again, it's so tempting. It is so tempting just to draw like almost like a V here. Okay? It's so tempting. If you do that, you will lose a point, at least a point. All right? So we don't want you to lose a point. In fact, I'm going to erase that so you don't lose it. All right. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to draw a curve down to that. Take your pencil off paper. Draw another curve. Oops, I kind of missed that point. Sorry. Okay, up like that. Take your pencil off paper, and then another curve like that. And there you go, man. That's it. Okay, that's the graph. It's pretty mellow. It's actually pretty easy. All right, so let's do a couple more complicated ones. It doesn't get that complicated. How about y is equal to -3 sine of 4x? Looks brutal, doesn't it? Looks brutal. What is the amplitude? 3, not -3, +3. Okay, and well, let's set up our compound inequality. Between 0 and 2 pi. So I can divide everything by 2. So 0 less than, oops, divide everything by 4. I don't know why I'm dividing everything by 2. 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to pi over 2. Okay, so the period is equal to pi over 2 minus 0. All right, and what's our increment? Now again, this is kind of weird. To say pi over 2 divided by 4. So how about instead of dividing it by 4, is it the same thing as multiplying it by 1/4? So it's pi over 2 times 1/4. So our increment is pi over 8. Okay, let's graph it. We have 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. And we're going to go by pi over 8. So pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, or pi over 4. Make sure you reduce these. That's important. 3 pi over 8, and 4 pi over 8, which is pi over 2. So remember, you're going to have 5 points all the time, math fans. And sure enough, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 0 is one of the points. All right. So we got a couple things here. First of all, it's -3 and it's sine. So remember, sine starts at 0 or at the x-axis. So there it is. Starts at the x-axis. It's negative, so it's going down first, and then to 0 or the x-axis, and then to 3, and then back to there to 0. Okay. Okay. So let's graph it. Remember, curve. Take a pencil off paper. And then from here, we go up like that, back down again. That's it. That's our graph. Okay? It's not bad. Not bad. So let's try one evil, nasty one just because it has to do with fractions. How about y is equal to -2 cosine of 3/4 x? Okay, just a little nasty, not too big of a deal. What's our amplitude? Amplitude is 2, and let's set up our compound inequality. Between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, so what are we going to multiply both sides by? Don't divide by 3/4, multiply by 4/3. So you're going to get 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to, well, it's 4/3 times 2 pi. Isn't that just 8 pi over 3? Can't reduce that at all, right? And don't tell me it's 2 2/3 pi. That's like not good. All right, so 8 pi over 3. So do you guys agree the period is equal to 8 pi over 3? Okay, And because that 8 pi over 3 minus 0, right? And let's figure out our increment is 8 pi over 3 times 1/4. Or divided by 4. But it's, of course, easier this way. So that's a 2 and a 1. So we get 2 pi over 3. Okay, that's our increment. So let's graph it. 2 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3. 6 pi over 3. And what's 6 pi over 3? Isn't that just 2 pi? And 8 pi over 3. And I want to point something out here too. That 0 is the starting point, and this point is the ending point. That's for one period. And sure enough, here it's 0. It starts out and it ends at 8 pi over 3. Okay? So that's important just to kind of realize that. Okay. So let's plot our points here. Our amplitude is 2. So 1, 2, -1, -2. And of course, it's negative cosine. So where do you start? You always start at a minimum or a maximum. In this case, we're going to start at a minimum. And then we go up, go to 2, 2 pi, and -2. Okay, and then we graph it. So remember, we go up like that. Take your pencil off the paper. Go around like that. Take your pencil off the paper. And curve it like that. And there we go. That's our graph. That's called the Mr. Ghosty graph. See, there it is, Mr. Ghosty graph. He looks scary. It's around Halloween. It doesn't really look like a ghost. I don't know. There, now it looks like a ghost. Pretty scary. Okay, anyway, that's what the graph looks like. Okay, not with all the other extra stuff there. We can get rid of that. There we go. Get rid of the eyes too. Okay. I hope there are no questions. I could ask if there are any questions, but you really can't ask because I am not there to answer the questions, and this is a video. All right, so that is talking about period, and tomorrow, next lesson, we're going to talk about where we translate things to the left and right and up and down. All right, that's it, math fans. Adios. Goodbye.